Namaste. I'm Pamela Aaralyn. This is Candace Craw Goldman, a beyond quantum healing expert. And, she was involved in QHHT for a long time, and she worked with and assisted Dolores Cannon when she was living. So, I know that a lot of you have seen Candace in a lot of my videos. So I'm really excited to have her live with me in person. It's been a really exciting journey because we didn't predict this, but here it is. And I feel like we're as ready as we can ever be with this short amount of time that was given to us to bring this impromptu channeling and message to the world. And hopefully you can hear us. Maybe you can check the chat to make sure, because I have a brand new microphone and this is the first time that I am using it.
Yeah, so if you all on chat would let us know if the sound is all right.
We'll do a quick sound check and then we'll get started with your questions.
So everyone's saying hi. If you could say sounds okay. I see the green dots up on the screen. It looks like the sound is going through. Sounds good. We're good with sound check. All right.
I just kind of want to make sure I'm not blowing out my microphone or that it's not too loud or too soft or anything like that.
Well, try to keep an eye on chat. So you all let us know out there if we have any microphone problems.
Yeah. So for those of you watching from Patreon, we cut off your question time frame at 2 o'clock. So there were about 48 questions there. We're going to begin there. And we have some specific messages coming through from all of them, especially the late, beloved, and great Stephen Hawking, who joined the Ascension team. Otherwise, we call them the ATeam for short. I've been working with the ATeam for about, 2 years, maybe longer?
It was, about 2 years.
Okay.
This fall, I think it'll be 2 years.
I apologize in advance. Both of us have a pretty bad cough and a cold. So we have cough drops in our mouths. We're just trying to stop coughing for long enough to channel these messages. So in between your questions, we have a lot of relevant messages coming through about the event. So please make sure you ask your questions about the event. We have a lot of relevant scientific theories that want to be proven and disproven, which really shocked me. I'm a channel spiritually. I am not a science expert. So I am just here to repeat everything that comes through in an unbiased fashion. And for those of you who are scientists who are watching, bear with me. Because some of the things that are coming through, it feels that Hawking and his interesting personality has a bit of a thing where he likes to debate, is what I've noticed. And a lot of the theories that he had not proven, he wants to prove from another perspective. And a lot of other people's theories that he felt like he wanted to debate and disprove, he's backed up from that. Especially, I'm going to forget the words. Especially the theory that we've been discussing all day.
The solid state. No, wait.
No.
Same state.
Steady state.
Steady state.
Yeah.
Steady state.
Especially that one. So there's a lot to do with steady state theory. And, there's a lot coming up about that. Time in between time, gaps of time, infinite matter, infinite human consciousness and beyond. There's a lot of that type of information coming through that I don't quite understand yet, because I've only had 2 days to prepare for this and talk to them. And I ask for explanations, and I'm given another deeply scientific explanation that I don't quite comprehend. And then we go back to square one. And this is what has been happening day and night. I've had about 2.5 hours of sleep today, and maybe about an hour and 10 minutes the night before. Candace, I don't know about you, but
the first night here was very difficult to sleep. I've been saying it's like there was a party going on in here, and not noisy, just energetically.
And for me, it's rather noisy. I have gravitated towards the utilization of get out of my head, all sorts of methods with smothering my face with pillows, not literally, but covering my face with a pillow, wanting to smother my face with a pillow, just so that I could get some voices out of my head. And then at the last minute, Einstein decides he's going to flirt with my interviewer.
He was just trying to break the tension, I think.
Apparently. So there's been some interesting things going on. I'm not going to trance because it's a fun story to listen to it this time, and I don't get to experience it as much when I'm trancing. So today we're going to do clear conscious channeling because I haven't done that in a long time, and I want to learn from these guys. So I'm going to stay awake for this time.
Super.
Is that okay with you?
Oh, I'm excited. Yes.
Because I know that if I trance, I'll cough and wake up from it.
There you go. Sorry about the cough and the tissues, but there you have it. This is what it is.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Here we go.
Here we go.
A bunch of scientific stuff that I don't understand. Let's roll.
Here we go. All right. Well, we're going to start with a question that's very obvious for Stephen Hawking. What is the underlying cause of ALS? How can we help those who suffer with this disease or help ease their suffering?
He said, I stood outside of the laws of time in reference to suffering, and I could easily distract myself from it. However, that's not the case with the majority of people who suffer from ALS. My unique type of ALS was rare, and it gave me a lot of permissions to move forth with less pain, more mobility, and thankfully to science and my family, I had an edge more than most. Some of that he's not going to talk about because that's private between him and his family. He's nodding is the impression that I'm getting. Mm-hmm. He's nodding and smiling. So there was a lot between him and his family that I'm not going to publicly disclose in relation to his lack of suffering. But he did state that there are some scientific theories coming out that he does want to be questioned about by you, relating to linking one level of the brain to another level of the brain that could cause a synapsing pattern that would be incredibly different from the standard brain issues in ALS. So he had a rare form of ALS that caused him to be able to live longer. And that is primarily the reason why he did live longer. So that will not apply to the majority of ALS sufferers. However, when you activate certain areas of the brain coming from the brainstem and the prefrontal cortex, you can do that by stimulating your nervous system, specifically with new advances in technology that involve electronic stimulation or electrical stimulation, electrical stimulation from the base of the spine. And it sends signals up into one side of the brain, and then they do that simultaneously in another area of the spine, which is in this part of the neck, And when that occurs simultaneously, both of the areas of the brain connect. And if they do so even temporarily in this latest research, which is not publicized yet, if this medical research advances deeper into our communities and is more known, then that would actually extend the life and lessen suffering. Because it causes the brain to calm down enough. It's over-synapsing, and you cannot, he's going to go off on a tangent. You cannot connect one area of your brain if it is not fully connected from the other area of your brain. And this is something that when I asked him about human consciousness and how this applies from a deeper theory of human consciousness, because he's been discussing this a lot, he gave me this image that looked a lot like burlap fabric. And he said, this is human consciousness. This is the current state of human consciousness. It looks like burlap fabric. And we didn't bring a pen to this channeling, did we? I'm never quite prepared for anything. Not this, not anything. So anyway, maybe you can mute my pen. I will. Yeah, because I think I have paper. I have plenty of paper, but I need to draw something as usual. Because sometimes it's easier with a visual than it is when people are saying scientific things that I personally cannot comprehend. But anyway, he drew an image of burlap fabric, and there was a lot of space, and he pulled it down into a microscopic level so that I could view it in a way that described the maps of the human brain. And this was incredibly interesting. Thank you. So for those of you that have been talking with me personally about this recently, you will understand this theory. So this is current human consciousness with where we stand spiritually in ascension, in our evolution scientifically. It just looks like that. So basically speaking, this is how the brain synapses. And when you can connect all of these dots, not just in a way that starts from here and goes to 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 here, but when you can connect it from above simultaneously, when you activate two different areas of the brain simultaneously, all of these dots synapse simultaneously, and there is more congruency across the synapse patterns. When that occurs, between those two areas of your brain, based upon newest medical research that he definitely was a part of, being tested with or understanding and trying to assist with, then ALS is going to be completely different. Multiple sclerosis is going to be a lot easier to manage and possibly cured if they advance, well into it. So that's what human conscious looks like perfectly. However, whenever you do connect all of these dots simultaneously, what happens is something that causes your consciousness to look so tight, like everything is so intermeshed and interwoven and dense that the burlap fabric actually looks more like and feels more like silk. Why is my camera doing that? What am I doing with my camera?
It just was refocusing for some reason.
When they told me to put my feet on the grounding mat, so I guess I will do that. Okay. One of my assistants sent me a grounding mat, and it's amazing.
There you go. Maybe I should do that with you.
You should, but you have to take your socks off.
Got them. Okay.
Got them. Cool.
Yep, I got them.
I'm not even going to repeat what Einstein just said.
Well, when you were telling me about this before, because this came through a little while ago, and you were showing me some of this, you said then if it was tightly together, then it was more like silk.
Yes, and in third dimensional pre-event scenarios, our brain patterns look like this. In post-event, during and post-event scenarios, our brain patterns look more like the dense silk. And when this occurs, you can actually have more of a peaceful frequency that leads into the emotional states that he didn't quite understand. He felt emotions, but he did not express them as often as most people. He had a lot of passion, for his family members and for his work especially, but he did not understand that doing this automatically shifted the brain patterns to be able to access the emotional components of grace. And when you access the emotional components of grace, then you transcend time. So time has been a huge part of this discussion. And we both had a lot of synchronicity since Candace has been here in regards to time. And you can feel free to ask further. We need to get to other questions.
Yeah, we need to move on. So of course the big question is, he just passed, and it just a few days ago. And so people want to know, where are you now? Have you met Source? Have your views on God and Source changed at all since your crossing? Because of course he was a well-known atheist.
Someone asked me this question earlier today, so I'm just going to repeat what he said. He said, I am time, I am Source, I am all that is above and below and within and between. And he gave me to a reference because he knew that I would understand it. And it wasn't a bigger reference for humanity, but personal to me because I had recently watched the movie Lucy. And he said, do you remember at the end of that movie when someone asked where Lucy is? For those of you who watch this movie, you will understand his analogy. And I said, yes, I remember that. It was wonderful. It's something I knew all along, but most of society kind of thought that was an interesting thing that she said. Did you watch it?
No, I did not.
Okay. Basically, she transcends time, and she's no longer a body. Her clothes collapse on the floor, and she is invisible, and you cannot see her because you cannot see the infinite mind of God. You can only experience God. And he, as well as Nikola Tesla, also reminded me of a reference to another ATeam channeling where we discuss this. And I will repeat what Nikola Tesla said then as well. If you are trying to visualize and experience the sun, you cannot fully experience while you are visualizing. You are taking it in and you're in observation mode. And when you're kind of here, if the sun is here and you're here, you are visualizing and you're saying, oh, look at that and its glory and its power. It's beautiful. And as you come closer to the sun, you say, wow, that is grand. That is beyond wisdom. That is amazing. And as you get a little closer, the heat gets hotter and you say, wow, I'm not sure about this. This is hot, because your human consciousness is trying to hang on to the very small components of the graviton. Thank you, Tesla. That is still there. Nikola Tesla believes that the graviton is something that he calls the death particle. And as that is dying within you at the deeper cellular level of the human DNA patterns, what occurs is grace activates, but your body hangs on. Like that death particle hangs on, the graviton sort of pulls out all of your egoic response, and you go, uh-oh, this is hot. Is death real? Am I going to die? You begin to fall into the negative frequencies of wonder, and you begin to question if death is real. And it's a very deep, relevant question when you are very close to the sun, and it's huge, and you don't feel so infinite in those moments. When you trust and bypass fear in that specific way and become closer to the sun, you're not caring if you die or not. So the graviton is no longer relevant to third dimensional DNA constructs. Thank you. That was Einstein. Sorry for not identifying everyone that's coming through. They talk all at once and I just repeat. That's what happens. So as they get closer, you then ask in a very trusting way to merge. And when you do that, when you merge with the sun, you're not saying, I see the sun. You're not saying, I feel the sun. You are the sun. I am the sun. And from this experiential perspective, you can transcend time. And from that point in time, time no longer exists for you personally. And this is the point that Stephen often discussed in his living years about the point of singularity. And the way that he's describing the point of singularity is, in his charts, that basically speaking that time just, if this is a black hole here, and this is time, when you dip into areas that will take you within and then expand, because he believed that the Big Bang Theory was an expression of expansion, and it was like a black hole going in reverse. So everything that would go within has to come back up, as is above, as is below. So as it comes back up, matter, from his perspective, is no longer destroyed. He used to believe in his living years, according to what he's telling me, that matter was destroyed and could not survive a black hole. He believes now, from this higher dimensional over the veil perspective, that even though matter can be fully exposed to chaos, as he's putting it now, it's not something that can be destroyed. And it's not, he doesn't believe that anymore. He's watched it changed as time collapses and reinvents itself, and collapses and reinvents itself. So basically speaking, to try to answer the question of how do I see God, he can't see God. He realizes that his atheism was actually a blessing, because he believed that there was no God, but what he expressed in his emotions was that what if we're all there is, which means we're God. So without knowing it, he inadvertently activated the God particle, the Higgs boson, by the experience of grace. He was not afraid to die. He was not afraid of his disease. And because of that lack of fear, he permeated, released the time veil, and he released the prevalence of the graviton completely from his DNA, and
which is the death particle.
Yeah, that's the death particle. So he believed that even if he died, that it wasn't really death, And he started to believe that even prior to exiting the physical experience. But to bring that forth to family, friends, and the scientific community would have been devastating to his position that he had carried throughout his entire life.
Interesting. So he kind of kept it to himself.
And until yesterday.
So people want to know how he feels to be back on the other side. What's it like over there? Was it what he expected?
Instantaneous recollection of all that is real. And then trying to explain the real to the unreal is a bit of a chore, he states.
Mm-hmm. Did he want to say anything more about black holes? Why do they exist? Maybe that's a good follow-up to that.
He says the study of the black holes can challenge belief systems, and they were always there. You created them in order to challenge your own belief systems. And in this capacity, you effectively challenge everything that you are, which you have done repetitively in every existence. So as you are challenging who you are, you begin to step into what you are. This is actually, we just switched over to Einstein. So when you challenge who you are, you begin to gain a deeper perspective of what, and he has always been more fascinated with the what you are from the deep level of the nanoparticle level of everything, you know, and comparing the micro with the macro at all times. So in a higher perspective, there's no comparison because he understands divine reality from every perspective. So it was an instantaneous revelation of all that is real.
So no real adjustment period needed, because a lot of people are asking about, you know, he just, well, so while you're getting that all nice and chewy in there, a lot of people were asking about this whole concept of you channeling this man so quickly after his departure. And you wanted to make pretty clear that this wasn't your idea, right? And then a lot of people are asking, well, did you know right away where you are, Stephen, et cetera?
He did.
But obviously he did, and he seemed to need no rest period because he came knocking on your door.
He is in between time. And this is where the black holes lead.
Gotcha.
So that is why the study of them is incredibly relevant right now. But going back to your question, with channeling someone in 18 and a half years of publicly channeling people, even prior to YouTube, before YouTube was even a big deal, I refused to channel people less than 6 months after their death.
Right.
Preferably a year or more. With Dolores, I waited. I think it was like, what, a year and a half?
And something. I think once she even said, not now.
Not now. I tried her in 6 months and she said, not now. But he came to me. And when an entity comes knocking on my door and doesn't go away, and believe me, he's passionate and insistent and tenacious, beyond even my experiences with Nikola Tesla. For those of you who watched my first Nikola Tesla channeling prior to the ATeam's creation, he corrects me. He said, we have always been in creation. So let's discuss the true beginning of time, because there never was a beginning. And I would like to address that now. He just talked over both of us.
There you go. Well, he's very, very insistent.
Yeah. You tell me I talk too much, but I'm just repeating what you're saying. I'm trying to express it. So in relation to time and the beginning of it, since we're off on this tangent, I wasn't going to wait on it because he was right there. And if a being is that persistent, I have to. It's not like he's going to go away. You're not really in my physical body, so you don't understand. Some of you don't understand what it's like to be a channel. You're sleeping, they're there. You're eating, you're there. Whatever you're doing, they're there. There's no privacy. There's none of that. So, time. Thank you. The beginning of it. In his living years, there was a big debate constantly over finding the beginning and the end of time. He currently believes that the end of time in this universe is predictable to anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 years. the end of time. He does not believe that that means death and destruction and an overheated planet. So he wanted to make that clear that those theories, when embodied, are no longer, he doesn't see that perspective anymore. So what else? So the planet isn't going to heat from global warming. He is devastated in a certain sense by human lack of awareness and blaming things on political systems, which is unique because he had an aversion to some of Trump's actions, politically speaking, when he was alive. And he was telling me the differences between that and now. He doesn't believe that politics can destroy anything if you are operating from a higher dimensional perspective by activating the God particle when you open both parts of your brain simultaneously with the frequency of grace. Grace is something he has been discussing along with all the members of the ATeam, especially Dolores Cannon, for the past 3 days. So the beginning of time, well, we'll just go back to the end, he said. Just go back to that. So the end cannot be predicted from the multiverse perspective because you are involving the infinite mind of God, and you are that. So what Dolores described that as, and she did give a unique diagram. I'm going to have to draw again. I don't draw.
I'm right here with you.
I don't draw very well. Be my support while I attempt to draw this. So it looks a little bit, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
6, 7,
Mm-hmm.
8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and then we need the little honeycombs, don't we? 1, 2, 3.
It was 6. Mm-hmm.
4, 5, 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then another one here so we can describe connection. Oh, I messed it up. Well, y'all know what I'm trying to do. Okay. All right. He and Dolores both agreed upon this diagram and have been showing us this.
The interesting part while Pamela is drawing this that I want to just mention is that this morning when we met in the kitchen and pouring coffee, and Pamela asked me how I slept, I said, well, I had my honeycomb dream again. And she said, oh my goodness, because, and then started talking about some of this diagram that she's preparing here for you to see.
Just move my hand.
I think you're doing fine. I think you're doing fine. You've got the 8 and then the honeycombs inside. Absolutely.
That is an octahedron. Can you all see it? Because
on the outside, the 8.
Can you look at the YouTube to make sure?
You can see it. Mm-hmm.
Can you see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we'll pull it closer.
Mm-hmm.
That is an octahedron, and this represents infinite mind. We'll pull it even closer.
Mm-hmm.
Within the infinite mind, that is everything that there is, the multiverse. But when humans decide to incarnate, there's a split that happens, and this creates a beginning of your unique universe. So you are operating within infinite mind, which many spiritualists call Christ mind, simultaneously as your perceived unreality. So this is reality. I'm going to put a capital R here. Mm-hmm. This is unreality. These little quadrants here, which by the way, looked like honeycombs in her vision and mine. She had a dream where Dolores Cannon was sharing this with her, and simultaneously, the scientists were sharing this particular chart early this morning. Mm-hmm. So this is unreality, and this is where you go into when you incarnate. So when you do this, you create personality, you become a very creative. God within you is very creative, and you are an expression of infinite mind separating down into these little quadrants. When you formulate connections with other beings, see, this could be you, this could be someone in your path. Your humans call those soulmates, by the way. This could be another person in your spiritual family. This could be someone that may even be an enemy. If something is within your unique universe, you are here to infinitely love that something or someone, that whether that be a scenario, because in this quadrant of who you are, this is the who, this is the what. So you cannot see the what You can only experience it. This is what you see, because this is the unreality, the dream, the matrix, if you will. You'll recognize some of these terms that many people use, that you created. So they're using these terms because you understand these terms, but this, from their perspective, represents portions of the brain. So there are unique portions of the brain that all of these also represent, that when you connect them simultaneously, activate the God particle. And when you do that, you are operating in a way that can transcend disease, because you've transcended time. You transcend curable and incurable disease. You can prevent it and not experience it at all. Everything within your belief system activates, like in that moment. What we are going towards in the event is the transcending of time. And that is why this message was so important, because time, in its creation, is the cause of death and disease and mental and physical illnesses. When we transcend this by trust, acceptance, allowance, flow, we just switched to Dolores, we can go into deeper states of the subconscious. And when we're accessing deeper states of the subconscious, it's easier for us to see what's directly in front of our noses, that has been there the whole time. So all of those things that you believe that you're trying to transcend, like when you say, I want to transcend the cabal, I want to transcend negative governmental influences, I want to transcend political systems. Yes and no. They don't exist. That is a part of your unique perspective in this little bubble that you've created here. And if you are seeing things that you don't like in these little bubbles over here, what you need to do is try to formulate a connection within frequencies of grace. And I'm going to now discuss what Emoto shared to both Candace and I. She came through Dolores, I believe, for Candace, but it came through Emoto for me. In Candace's vision, Dolores was pouring water down into these little honeycomb quadrants of the brain. Emoto was doing the same thing, and the water was what connected all of this. So the reason why that's relevant, for those of you who follow Masaru Emoto's work, he believed that you could infuse water, and that the more you focus on positive emotions and positive frequencies and infuse them into water with your thought process, that you could access infinite mind. And you could transcend any negative frequency in your life. So from that perspective, he really taught us a lot, very influential person. And now what he's saying is that when you do that, if you infuse your water with grace, that is the key to connecting all of these quadrants of human mind, which, by the way, going back to the reference earlier, it currently looks like burlap. After the event, those nerve ganglions in our brains that are in those little bunches, when they begin to synapse, it'll look a lot less like separate synapsing one behind the other. It'll look like an instantaneous nerve through the synapse, and it just goes like a wave throughout our brain, and synapsing looks incredibly different. So this is the scientific part of the event, that our brains will be different. And what does that mean? It means that we will no longer operate within the confines of fear. And when we're not doing that, we can transcend time. When we transcend time, we could heal disease, heal mental illness, activate our unique life purposes and spiritual abilities, and gifts and abilities of all types, whether they be from science or spirit, and the world will begin to change and shift. And this is why we call it the event, because that's huge. If that happens to enough of us, this point of singularity gets to a point where we understand that time is infinitely wrapping and unwrapping and rolling into that pure wave that looks more like silk. So we're no longer, like the imagery of the burlap. Is that making sense, guys? Am I Hopefully I'm
It is to me.
correcting.
So the whole event thing, are there various perspectives from all of the members of the ATeam on the event? Or are they unified in how they want to describe? Humans are asking a lot of questions. There's a lot of excitement about it. A lot of people want to know when. And of course, a lot of people also want to know, is it going to be everybody experiencing the same thing, or individuals? Is it going to be really imminent, or is it a long time from now? Same questions as usual, really. But the ATeam, what do they have to say about that specifically or as a team?
It is happening to you in collectives. Nikola Tesla has described that when events happen to us, if we are operating in that unreality, which is the third dimension, then the event will look disastrous. It will look like what Hawking used to be afraid of, the global warming and giant escalations of thermal temperature from the core of the planet, expanding outward into the Earth's crust and beyond. There will be an increase in ozone, things of that. People will be getting out of warmer climates, and cold climates, like where I am in Utah, will get hotter. Goodness knows. I don't like cold, so part of me is like, oh, I like that. But from the third dimensional perspective, there are many natural problems in the Earth's crust, many earthquakes, many fires, many droughts, which we're currently really experiencing. We're at a very high peak of that already. More tsunamis, and it won't just be in areas of the world that the United States doesn't even think about. It will be right here in our own country. This is why I particularly have, concerns about the West Coast right now, and I have for a long time. There's many people have asked me, well, would you consider moving there? And I'm like, I really have to think about that, because for the third dimensional collective, I'm going to be helping people who will be losing life and land and home. And the closer you are to the ocean in those scenarios, if you're a part of the third dimensional collective, you're going to lose a lot. So my suggestion to you, according to what the ATeam is sharing with us today and yesterday, is to work on activating that God particle. Because in the fourth dimension, which is what the event's about, moving, if you're in the third dimensional perspective, moving from the third to the fourth. If you're in the fourth dimensional perspective, moving from the fourth to the fifth. So whatever perspective you are operating within, you will see something different. Fourth dimension looks like you're observing all this. That's where I am right now, is moving from fourth to fifth. But currently, if I were to be in the fourth dimension during the event, I would be seeing everything happening simultaneously and and basically being in the middle of time. That's what fourth dimension looks like to Stephen Hawking. He says it's like the steady state theory. It's concepts of matter between matter and continuous creation of galaxies between galaxies. So as one particular universe may or may not be approaching being destroyed from the way that he used to believe, there would be matter being created as galaxies between the beginning and the end, between the birthing and unbirthing. I don't like the word death, so neither does he. So in those galaxies in between, that's where you are in the fourth dimensional perspective. That's where your mind is currently operating as, and you're concurrent with everything. So you see it, but you may not be experiencing. You are in observational mode. For those of you going from the fourth to the fifth dimensional perspectives, which it's threes, everything's happening in threes in these events. So those are the three choices that we're being given. And what we're creating, rather, is what Dolores says. It's not a choice that you're being given. You're creating these perspectives, she said. She said, careful with your words. Your words are important. So when you are creating these perspectives for yourselves, it's good to understand that going from fourth to fifth means that you are in a higher frequency of release of judgment and release of attachment and unconditional love to every circumstance, every being, human or not, your compassion to everything and everyone on this planet and beyond. So yes, that means the Illuminati. Yes, that means the cabal. Yes, that means, you know, everything that you are absolutely terrified of right now. You can find love in seemingly dark places, is what Emoto just said.
He's a poet.
He really is.
I don't hear him as much as you, but when I do, it's a very quiet, poetic voice.
He just whispered that. I just barely heard it. He just kind of whispers in between all of the rest of them who are talking their minds off.
Here we have a question about Christ conscious living. Well, that's a higher frequency living. That's what you were just talking about.
Fifth dimensional event perspective for that.
So here actually is back to the date thing. Einstein was born on March 14th and also passed away when he was 76. Did Stephen consciously synchronize all of this?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right.
Yes, because he said it's the closing of one era that would be simultaneous to everything that I did not really understand when I was in body. So I chose that as a sign to the scientists who continue to follow my work and fight about it.
What I find interesting now is the ATeam now is heavily science-based. We've got 3 science-based thinkers and beings versus Emoto, who is more about the spirit, and Dolores, of course, who is a little more about the spirit as well. I think that's really interesting when so many of us are talking about the connection between spirit and science.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Okay, here's a question about manifestations. Can you talk about instant manifestation and one's sustained vibration or frequency? Is that the key to manifesting any desire?
Tesla says, remember that you believe that sound waves are slow. Science have observed that sound waves are, immensely slow, but very penetrating. Emotion is sound. So it is more powerful than what you can visualize outside of yourself, because emotion occurs within our very dense physicality. And when you are creating powerful high frequency emotions, you begin to restructure your etheric and physical DNA. So when you can do that, you can hold sustained frequencies that are very high. Grace is not a frequency that most people can hold for a long amount of time. And it's been a big part of the frequency that all of them have been sharing with us for the past few days. We're getting a lot of messages about grace being the highest frequency currently available on planet Earth. So yes, you should be able to sustain the frequencies, and the more you can, the more you're going to be able to stand in Christ consciousness, the more you're going to be able to turn slow, dense sound waves into penetrating, really clear resonance of light. And when sound meets light, fascinating things happen during the event. And that is also what the event is about, according to Dolores. It's combinations of sound and light.
Beautiful. All right. Here's a question about dark energy and dark matter. And could they have any relation to the Akashic records?
Dolores says that is void matter. And everything that is created from the void is the point of creativity from which you evolve when you incarnate. When this occurs, dark can easily become light when you understand that those, what you would think are slower penetrating frequencies, change. For instance, fear. That is a very powerful frequency, just as powerful as love. And according to what Dolores and Emoto have shared with me many, many times, there are only 2 frequencies that we are really involved in as a human conscious collective. One is fear, one is love. Everything here that's available is a derivative of fear or a derivative of love. So when you make the choice to turn a dense, slow, sound-based frequency into a highly resonating light-based frequency, for example, you think that anger is bad and you avoid it, right? Not so good. That's not so good for you in the event, because that level of fear of the anger
Right.
causes you to not penetrate sound barrier at all, from the scientific perspective. And the more human beings we can get to penetrate a sound barrier, the more we can transcend into the resonance of light. And the more we do that, we're operating in grace, because grace is light base. Anger, even though it is sound based and it is slow and it is dense, it is penetrating. Because remember, going back to what they said about sound being very penetrative. So when that occurs, you can turn anger into the next best possible frequency, which is empowerment. Empowerment activates all of these places. Where's my little chart? Oh, it's over here. Empowerment is this. It is time in between time. When you activate something that is fourth dimensional, which empowerment is, and that's the frequency, then you are training your brain to believe and to understand that you can get from here to here. Because right now you don't believe that you can get from here to here to here to here, much less get out of all this and understand infinite Christ mind, which is this, all this reality. When you transcend anger and turn it into empowerment, this is the bridge of consciousness. And when you bridge two different levels of your brain, you are changing fear-based collective energies, which are sound and frequency-based, into higher resonating. You're getting closer to the frequency of grace when you do that. So anything that you're experiencing, don't bypass it, but please try to understand that within the fear, there is another frequency that has become your teacher. This is from Dolores. So when that energy becomes your teacher, from that perspective, you can transcend anything that you are afraid of, and you are then safe. And from the level of safety that she supports, you can experience and observe everything. If you are experiencing and observing things simultaneously, whether you are regressed or not, she says, you are operating in the fourth dimension. So she's giving you specifics on how to get from here to here, how to get from third to fourth. Okay?
Yeah, observe yourself.
Observe and experience simultaneously.
Four minutes, I was told.
Okay, I think it works now.
Can you hear us now?
Nothing?
No sound.
No.
3 minutes audio connection.
I think I think it should be better by now because I reset everything.
You're back, somebody says. So
I'm like, all of them are saying I'm back. What's going on?
yeah, here it is. Yeah. So we kind of rebooted the microphone over there. Thank you so much. We're taking questions from another page. So thank you for those who sent the instant messages. That popped up first. And thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how about we just move on?
Well, I don't even know what.
Yeah, I think we were pretty good. We were talking about space exploration, etc.
Oh, he was basically saying with space exploration that we should repeat this. This is very important.
Okay.
He said that he had a firm knowledge and understanding that the best thing for humans would be to actually get off the planet and into space. That was his perspective as a human. However, in one way, he still believes that because science would finally be able to see and experience and accept more of what's out there, more of what he sees now that science just hasn't discovered yet, right? So he sees all that now, but he always had a lot of secret knowledge that he did not divulge, in some of the programs that he was involved in from the governmental perspective. And he knew about that. He had experience, and he had some background with the Hadron Collider. He had a lot of background that some people knew about, some people didn't. So he knew because he had governmental influence and support. But he knows now how the third dimensional collectives on Earth can be incredibly, I don't want to say damaging, but that is what he's saying. He says humans are more dangerous. Sentient human beings are more dangerous than the majority of the non-sentient human beings he is experiencing so far.
Interesting. What I find is interesting is how many secrets you and he have talked about.
Oh yeah, and some of it he's like, please don't say that line.
Right? Right? You've been told what you can talk about and what you can't talk about. Very fascinating stuff, everybody. All right. Yeah. All right. So, okay. Well, we're ready to move on. Okay. Yeah, it is. I was just going to say that.
Holy cow, my hair.
The next question has to do with energy, replacing energy on the planet, different kinds of energy for the planet. Any new information about that? Is it still very political? Is there anything new on the horizon? What do they have to say about any of that?
My brain isn't working. Repeat it.
Energy, just energy instead of oil-based energy. Any new forms on the horizon?
He said humans don't want to replace oil-based energy. They're all nodding. Right. They're not ready, and they are remaining in the third dimensional collective for that reason. Dolores wanted to talk a little bit about that even though they are not transcending time, they are not, operating outside of the third dimensional collective, they still are affected by the event because they are able to observe and see the devastation. The government will finally be able to observe the devastation that they have created and how it affects the planet and how it affects them personally and how money is not the answer to everything. Nicola just said that.
All right. Okay, here we go. So this is kind of back to the question that is asked a lot in our community about connecting science and spirituality. Now that he's on the other side, does he have any tips for us? Any ways that we can help suggest those around us manifest that in our world?
To help science become more spiritual.
And yeah.
That's what he said to you. He said it with a little bit of sarcasm.
Got it.
Tesla said, "Oh, that worked out wonderfully for me. Wonderfully." And he holds up his hand like
they're being very funny today.
They're being a little facetious.
Yes, they are.
My goodness, can you guys tone it down? Like, I'm gonna have to put my hair up in a braid or something. I feel like I'm just sweating.
I was gonna pull up my sleeves a minute ago, and I thought, well, maybe not on camera, but I might have to.
Right? My whole body's just dripping sweat.
Got warm.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? And the air conditioner's on.
To
answer your question with energy shifts, we are not ready. The event will occur in ways that we have access to alternative sources of power. Tesla says you see more of that occurring with vehicles, especially. We're getting a lot better with that. A lot of the Tesla vehicles are currently in operation. And beyond that, We won't be operating into hovercrafts anytime soon.
Darn.
I know. I was
Always wanted one.
I don't. Me too. Right? Looks fun. Although a little bit frequency-wise, it's not too good for you. Anti-gravity is not ready to be mastered, according to what Hawking was stating. Einstein respectfully disagrees. This is interesting.
How fun. A debate between ATeam members. Okay.
Yeah, he respectfully disagrees because gravity was out of the equation as proven by Hawking's work. And he said, but my work is shifting because science is shifting. So my work will be proven and disproven just like every theory. Nothing is quantified. Nothing is proven that can't then turn around and be disproven. So science is changing and the theories are changing so quickly that a lot of human beings, we're to Dolores now, a lot of people in the human collectives are saying, I don't know what to believe anymore because you changed your theories so many times. And humanity is looking for consistency. Humanity is looking for belonging, she states, and humanity is looking for forgiveness of shame and safety and love. Those are the three things that humanity is looking for right now in the event. With that having been stated, Masaru stood up and said, and water. Humanity needs more water. They are constantly just poking me and prodding me about drinking more water. You know, I'm not.
The funny part is even Emoto and Dolores are having me go make her some tea. Go get her some more water.
I didn't drink it.
Give her some more water. I love this next question from our good friend Maddie Miller. Someone told me that Stephen Hawking did not believe we could travel back into time. He said if we could, we would be inundated from travelers from the future. Was that an accurate statement then? And what does he say now?
He said, and you believe everything that you see when you are in scientific methodology. When you are not operating in that limited mind perspective, from infinite mind perspective, you believe everything that is unseen because the unseen is greater than the seen. Does that answer your question? He said. He doesn't believe that she understood. But basically, time is irrelevant. So why do you need to travel to anything? He's going back to, he's giving me an image of a black hole, you know, going back down. And he believed at one point in time that matter would be destroyed or infinite, just lost. But because of chaos theory, there was another scientist at the time who was much younger that he gives a lot of kudos to now. And he's still giving kudos to that scientist. And he said, you know, it changes. Matter shifts and changes. It cannot be lost. And that has already been proven. With this being said, if matter is continually shifting, this could prove that matter has always been in existence, that everything has been always in existence, that there cannot be a beginning in the multiverse. There cannot be, because matter is created and recreated and lapping and overlapping, and time is basically collapsing into, dimensions are collapsing into each other. So then it looks like, for those of you who play the cups game, I have a kid who loves that. Like, it's a sport to him. And he's got those stacking cups and they have holes in the top, I believe. And he stacks them, and then you can watch them and they collapse into each other. It's amazing to watch. You know, not very amazing scientifically. Don't make fun of me. I think it's amazing. In my limited mind, it is amazing to watch those cups stack so quickly and then they collapse into each other. So
dreams again, the dreams I'm having, same kind of things.
Within this, time is irrelevant. So it's not a matter of us traveling to someone or someone traveling to us, because within us is infinite mind. And we are projecting time, and time isn't really real in infinite mind. So we don't have to travel to anywhere or from anywhere. It's really, really simple.
Right. So back to Emoto. We were just talking about water, and as you're drinking your water, The question is, can you speak to water in the human body and how it correlates with consciousness, and how can we integrate your findings in advice for our lives right now? Water and consciousness and the humans.
You can only integrate my findings by action. When you are in practice of water infusion, when you are committed to the practice of understanding that you are water, that you are every particle of water, if infused properly, activates the God particle within you. And water is key to that. You cannot, transcend physicality. You cannot collapse matter into matter and become infinite continuum without water.
Very good. Here's an interesting question. It's kind of out of the box, but it's fun. It's about lightning bugs. Is there information about the energy wave or particle they use to communicate as they all blink in a wave? Is something beneficial about this ability of lightning bugs to humanity?
Light simply travels faster, Nicholas says. And when it travels that quickly, it is an instantaneous manifestation of not necessarily emotions. Lightning bugs don't operate with emotions. They're non-sentient beings. But they are connecting to each other with higher frequencies that humans don't understand, because humans only currently understand emotions.
Interesting.
So they are operating in a very high dimensional perspective that is only light. And light travels instantaneously. So much like, going back to the chart earlier, where we were talking about synapsing in the brain, lightning bugs do this instantaneously. You, because you believe in time, believe that they're communicating with each other, and you see a light and another one lights up. In their reality, it's happening at the same time, and they are operating in the unified force field, Stephen said.
Okay, then. Here's a question about timing of Hawking's death. Why did you, Stephen, decide to leave before the event? Did you know about it and decide to help from the other side of the veil?
The event has been occurring and will continue to occur. There is no before or after. There is only during. And I operated in my limited perspective. And now I operate in my unlimited perspective. I don't view it as before or after.
Okay. Here's a question that I'm going to kind of condense into a smaller sentence, which is, those of us who try to live a fourth dimensional life, do we help manifest that 4D life for others on this planet?
Einstein. Throughout the fruition of the discovery of unity, and even scientifically from unified force field work, when you understand entanglement and how nothing can fully be separate or unaffected by something else, then you are always connected. And this occurrence, separation is completely a silly thought process, he says. Does that answer your question?
I think it does.
Okay.
We have a question again to Stephen about what soul group he came from and about his transition process, I guess, from the physical to the non-physical. What did you see, feel, and experience on your way to joining the ATeam?
He is primarily Venusian and Arcturian, and his particular galactic race. And give me the other part of the question.
What did he see, feel, and experience on his way to joining up with the ATeam?
I am sharing it with you now. There is not a matter of I left my body and then there was time and then I joined and there was I'm doing it now. Mm-hmm. He has no perspective of before. There was no period of rest, where some human beings who still are in limited mind go to what is called the resting place. We just shifted to Dolores. In a limited perspective, when a human leaves their body, they are limited by the belief that they need time to rest. They are limited by the belief that there might be something bad on the other side, that there might be something good on the other side, that there might be a dualistic notion that could happen to them. Within that very limited brain, if they're carrying that through, if they haven't gone through an event, the events have been occurring for over 4,000 years. According to Nikola Tesla, by the way. This is not new. This is just a very strong one. They've been occurring in waves for a long time. This is just an immensely important one. So when a limited mind goes through that, they create that limitation even in the fourth dimension, even in the cosmos, even in space. They're still creating time. So they have that experience of going to the light, and now I need a Akashic record review, or Christians call it, I think, the what do they call it? The looking at their book of life. Thank you, whoever channeled that to me. That was good. So it wasn't anybody
I was
here.
afraid to get it wrong.
Yeah, book of life. They believe in their little life review.
Okay,
is what Dolores is correcting me to say. Life review. So all those things, they meet their what they believe is the entity that's higher than them, such as Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha or whoever they particularly believed in is, bigger and better than them, Einstein said. He's not joking.
He is funny.
So when you believe something is extraneous and sort of like higher than you or better than you or more holy or sacred than you, then you create those experiences, and then you are in this field of time still.
And he didn't have to do that. Yeah, 'cause some people have been making the point that he must have had like this really tough life in that really challenged body and really needed some rest here. And how is it that you are just bugging him and channeling him? And of course, we addressed how it is
he
that
came to me
channeling him before. But I guess he, even in his belief system on his way out, didn't believe or didn't anticipate a need for rest because he didn't really do that.
No, there's no need for rest, because time, the creation of time, the belief that you're going to die and go somewhere bad, the belief that you're your body, if you have transcended all of that, then you are ready to roll. You are excited about new information. You are accessing that new information instantaneously. It's the speed of the light at that point in time, according to Tesla, that's giving you access to higher frequencies that you've never even experienced because you realize you're not your body and you were never human to begin with. So Stephen definitely believes, in life out there. And he believes that the majority of it is a lot better than humanity. He's in a fourth dimensional perspective, by the way, for those of you who are curious. He has not ascended, but he's fourth dimensional perspective. And that's higher than the majority of Earth.
Here is another question to Stephen about time, and keep your pen ready because it's can Stephen give us a visual representation of time. I mean, we had kind of the burlap thing and the black hole thing, but is there another one that he might be interested in giving us about time?
He said, my mind isn't limited to show it to you, but my technical capacity to draw is. Thank you. God. Okay. I've been insulted by a dead scientist. He said, I'm not dead.
Oh gosh, don't give me in a coughing fit. I'll never stop. We've both been through about 3 cough drops each during this, so forgive us on our little.
Forgive us for constantly sucking on cough drops.
It's the only way we're going to get through it today.
The coughing has been bad. Ascension symptoms through the event is a big deal. So drawing time. Just put me on the spot. Why don't you? You better move my hand for this. I can't draw that. He was right. Hold on, I'll try.
I wish you could give it to me in my head. I could help you.
Okay, we're going to draw DNA.
Okay.
That's why he was having me look at that little cord in the shower. That's how limited my mind is. I have to look at the cord of my shower head to get it, to get this. That's why you're telling me that.
Right.
Okay. So, oh, you want me to draw DNA that goes the other way too? I can't.
Maybe you have to use your other hand.
Shh, shut your face. Now I'm going to go over there on the other side of the picture. There we go. You stop it.
You were in water, so you were thinking, well, with the water, the consciousness flowing over you, looking at the...
Start there, but we're going to get deeper in a minute. Sound, slow. It's interesting. Have me draw it this way and then turn it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Sound is slow and dense. Light, a little bit more like this, right? Faster, faster. Okay, slower. When you transcend sound and all of the frequencies within sound and move into resonance of light, time does not exist. But there is a period in between. And this is, why he liked, the steady state theory, because while he was always trying to prove and disprove it, and there was always, I'm right, and no, I wasn't, and I'm right, and no, I wasn't. At this point, it's understanding the void, the gaps between what occurs between this experience of our DNA evolution and this experience. So, essentially speaking, drawing time is impossible because it doesn't exist. What is in between time is what's more important. So what is in between this, okay, looks a little bit, all these little points in between, they actually look like spirals going up. And as they go up, they expand out and out and out to where you don't even believe this exists anymore because you can't see it. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to draw this.
I'm following you perfectly.
So when you are combining light and sound, and when things get faster, this point is not in existence because you're drawing this more tightly and more tightly and more. Okay, now it's looking bad. Okay. So you're drawing this more tightly and more tightly and more tightly. And when you do that, these little lines eventually come together. And these little points of existence create spirals that go upward and upward and upward and upward.
I love it.
So time looks like a spiral. And when you are spiraling up because you are operating in between the moments between time, which he calls the void, you reach Christ consciousness in those moments because you no longer look at it like this anymore. What you are seeing from that point looks a little bit more like this. God had a thought, right? We'll call that capital T. We'll put a T by that thought.
Okay.
God had a thought of, I wonder if I could become a human. And within that space and frequency of wonder, God expanded upward, right? And here's the thought. Okay. And in thought, in the creation of thought, that created physicality, and that thought became bigger, right? And then God kind of went, okay, I remember a little bit of this, but this is so much bigger and better, this creation of physicality. And then God has some karmic attachments that come with it, some little lessons along the way, some little, oh, well, that didn't go exactly as I planned because I'm not really familiar with how to be in physicality because it's not real, right? So then there's a little dip down. Humans call this karma. Dolores said humans call it that. That's not really the term that she prefers, but humans call it that, she said. So then we're creating another experience, and that is a denser frequency, and it's a little different. And then when we realize we can transcend that, we create another point of thought that's even bigger than that. And you realize that from that, we're creating our own spiral. Now we have Einstein. So we have spirals within spirals. Everything begins to, oh my gosh, everything begins to connect together. And when everything connects together, because you realize that you are not this, that you are always God to begin with, and that all this creation creates other infinite loops that spin off from there and other infinite loops that get bigger and spin off from there, you realize that you can get here, this little in-between places. Humans do that currently in meditation. Humans do that when they forgive others. Humans do that when they access grace. I'm sorry for the long thing, but it had to be.
Back to grace.
You asked a question.
Very good. All right. We're doing very well here. Okay. So here's a question about space, about empty space. We're back to the empty space idea almost immediately. Between objects that surrounds us, that we live in, that we can trace our hands through. It seems to have no separation to what we perceive as our physical bodies. What actually is this space between physical objects and us, I guess is what the question is. Empty space. What is empty space around us? Who's jumping forward to answer that one?
Nikola Tesla is humming the Ghostbusters theme. I'm trying not to laugh, but what I'm hearing in my head right now is dun 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 dun.
They're being just so funny.
Well, you guys don't make me laugh because I have a cough. So, and then they made a joke. Let's tell them it's ectoplasm. They'll believe it. Sorry. But not sorry, because it is hilarious. So we call that energy ek. That's why they were making the joke of ectoplasm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that is we have a motto now, kind of a molecular structure that is thicker than water. It's not as thin as water, but it can still move and shift and transform very easily, much like have you ever had, if you your kids when they were little played with putty, and you watch while they would have it in one hand and then they would move it to another hand and it would appear to be in a different shape, and you put that shape inside of its container. One like water, if it has a container around it, it takes the shape of that container, but you could pour it out and it goes everywhere. Water is infinite. Time in between time has a certain feel and a certain shape. The void is not empty, is what Dolores is saying. Nothing is empty. So within that, you can shape your own, DNA. You can shape your own structure. You can experience time in a way that is limitless. Mm-hmm. So we call this ek. And this is a big part of the experience of the light workers and channels and mystics. There was a lot of talk today about that you light workers are experiencing the activation of the plasma in your blood cells, which contains ek. And for those of you familiar with some of the greatest masters on this planet who call themselves Ek and Kar, that is why I talk about that a lot in my book and Channeling of the Elohim. The activation of ek is a frequency that is unknown to the human race currently. So this is why when scientists, we're going to Emoto, when scientists have tested plasma, they get a lot different results than when they test red blood cells. There's a different density in the plasma of your blood. This is why plasma is so important in medical research right now. This is why people should, we're talking to Tesla now, this is why humans should investigate and research the plasma gelatinous matter of jellyfish. We should investigate jellyfish because the light and the electricity travels faster due to the plasma inside of the cellular nature of the jellyfish. So there, I know that I'm kind of going in a weird place with this.
This is fun for me.
But in your body, if you can imagine that in your body, according to Tesla here, that the plasma cells in your body would thicken just enough to carry an electrical current. That is what's occurring in the event right now in light workers. And this is why we're getting sicker, because our red blood cells don't know what to do with this. And our immune system
react to it, and it reacts with mucus.
Yeah, it does.
Interesting. That is fascinating. Oh, I think we answered that one. But is that the same sort of nothingness or the emptiness in this space out here?
It is not empty, Dolores.
Yeah. Gotcha.
It is not empty. When the light workers are activating the EC in their body, in their plasma, physically, in their blood cells, they are actually pulling forth the capability to bring the resonance of light into their bodies. And light is fast. And because light is faster than sound, you are operating from 5th, 6th, and even 10th dimensional perspectives. So you are not thinking that your emotions are the end all know all, is what she's saying. From that point, you're not, you are the master to your emotions. They are not the master of you.
All right. Let's see. So back to the beginning. So the question, there's no time. I know. You did that while you were swallowing some water.
Because he's something goofy.
So did Hawking still consider there was nothing before the creation of the universe, no form of God or source? I think we kind of already answered that one, didn't we? Or do you want to add anything to that? I think he
said, my atheism is what actually connected me more deeply, because I had no perception of life outside of myself. That within my brain, whatever was going to happen, I was open to what would happen and what wouldn't happen. And that is, that's actually what connected me even more deeply to the concept of God.
It's just so interesting to even kind of say that. I mean, you're basically saying the thing that really helped me figure it all out was being an atheist.
That is what he's saying. He is not.
I mean, that's just amazing.
I know.
All right, with all this talk about the event and everything going on and the expansion of human consciousness, will we be released from linear time in the near future?
Dolores, she said, examine your question. Are you trapped? Are you limited? Are you stuck? And Tesla said, and your belief will then create that. This is a third dimensional perspective. The idea that we can be trapped somewhere. She said that is a third dimensional perspective. So you can't, it's not a will we, it's the people who believe that they are trapped in time will remain there because that's what they believe. The frequency of wonder can generate a little bit of a different scenario, that at least you would have a potential, Tesla says. And when you operate within potentialities, you are activating a different part of your brain that opens up different neural pathways for your neurotransmitters in your body to synapse effectively, faster, more efficiently, at least temporarily. But the moment your fear-based frequency, which is highly penetrating, although slow and dense, becomes stronger than your positive frequencies of wonder. Because wonder is interesting. Wonder can be negative or positive. So if it's negative, it's powerful enough to keep you there. It is the pathway. Wonder is the pathway to any experience that you want.
Perfect.
Tesla.
Perfect. Here's a very specific body question, human body question. What's the spiritual meaning behind problems with knee joints, tendons, etc.? And does it matter if it's on the right or left side of the body? Dolores doesn't answer that.
She did.
Eat my hat. I don't have a hat, but I was just thinking that.
The non-existent, non-eaten hat. She says, the human dream, the conjuring of meanings from left to right, to above to below, from something different to something better, to something lesser, to something more. That is the dream that the event is trying to awaken you from. What if there was no meaning? Nicola says that's going to really anger humanity.
Because they like
systems.
There's
no meaning. You like systems.
Like
you like
systems.
paradigms. You like points of connection. And Dolores does like this. They like connecting the dots. They must have something before something else. And it must go A, B, C, D. And when it doesn't, you lose it, is what she said. So lose it. She said, lose it all. Lose the A to the B to the C for a moment. Something I wouldn't have said to you, but I am now.
That's for sure.
Lose it for a moment and gain a different perspective of what if there's no meaning other than your creativity and enjoyment of it? What then?
Mm-hmm.
That is the interesting connection to the knees specifically and the back problems as well. Because there's a lack of flexibility. Knees represent your flexibility to bend
Mm-hmm.
and to support. Mm-hmm. So when you don't feel supported because you are inflexible, then you got a knee problem and a back problem, sometimes simultaneously, depending on how deep the belief is.
All right. How can we best understand and use principles of sacred geometry?
She said, how do they make you feel? How does each symbol make you feel? What's good about it? What's bad about it? What does it mean to you? Everything that I've taught you about your meaning is relevant at this point because you still believe that meaning is in everything. So you continue to create it for yourself. Some of you believe that sacred geometry is from a negative force of the Cabal and Illuminati. Some of you believe that
one.
Yeah, some of you believe that shapes are
oh goodness,
some form of something that's negative that's going to rein you into Illuminati-based control. Yeah, it's out there in some spiritual teachings. So she's right. I've heard the teachings. Some of you believe that it is sacred to you. You feel safer with these shapes. And when you feel safe, you're operating within the frequency of trust. When you're operating within trust, you are in allowance. And allowance is the key to forgiveness and grace. And there is trust and forgiveness and allowance within grace at all times. And you can't get better than that. So what do these shapes mean to you? Is what she's saying. It's important for you to understand because you still believe in meaning. And you'll continue to create it.
Excellent. Here's a funny question. It may be too personal for Hawking, but somebody asks, did you ever tell anyone on the planet when he passed, if there was an afterlife, that he would try to contact them?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I would never have stated that would not have been within my vocabulary.
All right. I think it's the same person who asks, are you planning on trying to influence your colleagues in the science community now that you're on the other side of the veil? And if so, how? Okay, keep him up all hours at night like he has been with you. But
no, he talks to me because I will believe him.
Right.
I will listen.
Right.
He doesn't talk to the scientific community because they believe that channeling is still a bunch of hooey. So they would not even formulate the pathway in their brains to
allow it.
Reciprocated connection. So it would be a one-way highway, he said. And they're limited. Their minds are limited.
All right. Our good friend Priscilla Louise talks about power stations blowing up around the world and some deaths and other things due to that. And that there are time slips happening. Where is all of this activity leading us to?
All of this activity, you have Tesla. You have mentioned two things that do not connect to one another. So we'll have to look at this separately because he wants to know why she is connecting those
I've kind of wondered the same thing. Yeah. But so, maybe she was just trying to get two questions into one. But
he says she's definitely connecting.
Oh, okay. All right.
But with power stations blowing up all around the world, this is the destruction of the current environment in which you live because your third dimensional ways are no longer operating well for you. You don't need them. You don't want them at the collective level. You have reached a tipping point. We have Einstein. And within the entanglement theory, you have connected enough that your singularity is really not so singular. Hawking says at this point, you understand that you're creating unified field theory in a brand new way that you've never experienced before. So, of course, paradigms have to blow up. This is a metaphor. That was from Dolores. She said paradigms blow up when they no longer exist. They don't serve you. Why would they still be in your existence? Your deaths, well, that's a unique soul contract to the people who died. Like, we can't connect those dots to anything else. Time slips occurring. Now that, she said, you can connect to everything and the theory of everything. Hawking stood up and said. So within the theory of everything, which she was well known for, according to him, time slips are not random. They are a matter of fact, that time is absolutely fluid, excuse me. And it's not a slip. It's going into your full, like you're activating your molecular structure, all the particles of water within your blood cells, all the electrical synapsing in your body. We have both of them, Tesla and Emoto, begin to shift in ways that cause you to be able to transcend time, because it's not relevant to you. It doesn't serve you. Dolores said, and that's why she connected it, because neither serves. So all this activity is just leading up to the transcending time.
We've had plenty of time slips just in the last couple of days together. Like, we were on the highway for quite a while, and remember that then did all of these miles, and then it was still the same amount of time to get to where we were going. Remember? And
we stopped, and my son called, and he said, gosh, you've been on the road a long time. And we went, yeah, it kind of has been. We've been talking and driving and talking. Why does it look like we're still in the same place?
This is so interesting.
Yeah, it still looks like Arizona. Why are we still in Arizona? And then we realized, we looked at the clock, and I was positive that an hour went by, because I had looked at the clock earlier. So I knew what time it was. And it wasn't a time zone change either. I calculated that in. So I looked at the clock, and I saw a certain time, and then I looked at the clock again, and we had been talking for an hour. I was positive. We did. And I looked at the clock, and it was only 1 minute left.
I remember your face when you turned around and looked at me.
And I went, and you kind of went, huh?
Yeah.
Like you expected it.
It was interesting. And we were listening to Dolores during that time, by the way.
Yeah, we were.
Because she made us. Like, she made us. It was the thing. Okay. All right. So back to Hawking. Why did you choose a body, or choose to experience ALS? What did you learn from living with it all those years?
I wanted only to operate from mind perspective. I did not want a body perspective.
Wow. Well, that pretty much covers that. That answer, doesn't it? Perfect. I think we've already asked about his belief in God. More questions about God and meeting God. More questions about the event.
He said, I met myself. Yes, I did.
Right. So here's somebody who asked a question that I've seen. This came through in one of Allison Coe's videos, one of her quantum healing videos, I think, one of her sessions, about grounding in your thought process, not into the earth, but into the new earth. And if there really is a difference, and more questions about that.
Say it again. My human brain is not following you.
When people do some grounding processes.
Oh, grounding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they think about dropping a cord into the earth. Some information that's come out recently is, if you want to move into a higher frequency world, think about dropping your cord into the new earth, rather than the earth that you might previously have thought of as either the old or present earth.
Dolores says, systems and beliefs, systems and beliefs. Does it work for you? Do it. If it doesn't, don't. Really, really simple answer.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So more questions about quickening or a quantum flash of evolution. So back again to the different perspectives. All right. Okay. And after the event, or people, I like this question, people over 50, so that'd be me. Are we still going to be able to stay in our body longer than we assumed previously during this lifetime, or will the awakened appear to die and leave the body behind? The physical symptoms of illness this person is living with are almost unbearable, and he's really looking for relief, I guess, wondering about the event and time shifts. And
Emoto says, if you don't want to be in your body at a conscious or subconscious level, your body will begin to fail and you will experience pain. If you commit to trusting your body, even throughout the misidentified suffering, without full disassociation and disconnection, but honoring the experience of pain minus turning it into suffering, it can be easier. So I felt that he just kind of wanted to, there's a part of him that just said, you know what? Like when I read this person's higher self, he's like, I'm going to take my ball and go home. Yeah. I don't want to be here anymore. And his body said, okay.
Yeah.
That is a conscious and unconscious choice when you start to say, maybe in ascension, I die and finally get released from this terrible, painful body. The point of disease, when it is incredibly painful, is to teach you to trust that pain, that pain is there for an immense reason that you may not understand and you don't need to understand, and you can trust beyond the limits of human understanding. And when you can do that, you begin to transcend suffering, which, by the way, was also Yeshua ben Joseph's purpose. The purpose that this person is experiencing is surrender. And within the contracts that involve surrender, a lot of people will look at that and say, well, that's sad. Stephen Hawking was in a lot of pain. That's sad. The limited mind feels that way. Mm-hmm. The unlimited Christ mind, the higher mind, the infinite mind, is what Hawking calls it. It does not view that way at all. It views it as infinite creativity and choice to learn something in a difficult way because you can. Dolores said just like that. She said, because you can. It's really that easy. You want to and you can.
And he was so focused that way. Focused in a mind life and not a body life, like you said before.
Yeah.
Well, we've been through most of our collected questions, and I was going to look at, we've been going at this for a while. I don't know how you're feeling about your energy level and
he's telling me I need more water.
Yeah.
He'll find out.
So I'm actually jumping over to YouTube. I saw some questions go through. Here's a really funny one that I saw come through a little while ago. Is there sex in the afterlife? Somebody on YouTube asks. I just want to know who's going to answer that question. Einstein, he's been frisky today.
I will not repeat his response to you. This is after show material.
Oh, that's hysterical. Oh my God. Okay.
Give me another one. It was called drops.
I know. We're getting, have to get to, I'm opening up the bag for us here. So here you go, darling.
Yeah. Ascension symptoms are terrible. I'm not even going to try to edit this.
No.
I might edit that last comment.
Oh, this is too much fun. I knew it was going to be fun coming here, but I didn't know it was going to be this kind of fun.
Oh, man. Okay. I can't even answer that question because in perspectives that, this is Dolores, she said in perspectives that are unembodied, a disembodied perspective, it's more like a soul merge, and when spirits merge, there's a deeper love that can never be accomplished when you're in a body. So the physical aspect of sex is highly limited, unless you don't have it. Nicole attests. Oh my God. What? He led I believe he led a very limited life in perspective, according to what he's mentioning. So he said, when you are in embodied form, you feel that is all that there is. And humans formulate entire connections based upon sex alone, as if that's everything that there is to love. And from what Dolores is saying, there's just so much more, and just so much more.
Somebody here said Einstein had a huge sexual appetite when he was in the physical.
And he still does. He's been flirting with Candace all day.
Apparently. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to scroll through. You YouTubers now, if you've got a question, as long as Pamela's still going, you might either want to type one out or retype one. Here's a question about autism. If anybody wants to pick up a question about autism, maybe its purpose or perspective.
Dolores said, why do you think something's wrong? It is a limited perspective to believe that someone has a disability. You are experiencing the belief that you're limited, but that is an external perspective when you are making judgments about a person's body and a person's allegedly limited mind, which is switched to Einstein. In infinite mind perspective, you understand that the soul who chooses the autistic experience does not prefer the label, does not understand the label, does not understand the limitations, does not feel limited, is not suffering, is highly illuminated, and is entangled within the highest potential realm of their souls.
Very good. All right. Here's a question. What does it mean if you don't have any ascension symptoms? And yes, just before you answer that,
Dolores,
for you YouTubers who are asking, this event was, we took questions from Pamela's community first, her Patreon community first, before jumping over to YouTube. And we are going to take as many YouTube questions as Pamela and the team have time and energy for. Did I ask a question?
No. Oh wait, you did.
I thought
Dolores says you did.
Yeah. I don't know. My brain just left it. Ascension. What if you don't have ascension symptoms? For the people who want this cough.
Come on. I will generously give it to you. Along with the immense migraine that I have right now.
Noticing you're not drinking enough water.
I know it, but you were keeping me up for 2 days straight, and I didn't sleep, so caffeine became a higher priority.
That was too funny.
Caffeine became a higher priority just to stay awake for this channeling. But regardless of that, if you're not having ascension symptoms, why do you believe that you need them? Dolores says, if you have already experienced and your soul has agreed to experience a different contract that does not involve that level of suffering, then
there you go.
So be it.
There you go. Here's an interesting space question. This past weekend, NASA captured an image of something leaving a black hole. Can anyone on the ATeam discuss this?
Einstein and now Hawking. But repeat the question so that I can understand it, because they're saying things that I don't understand.
So it's a recent event. This past weekend, NASA captured an image of something leaving a black hole. Can anyone explain?
Hawking states that yes, anything can, but the ability to perceive it is highly limited. NASA captured something that they do not want to disclose. And will pretend that they don't understand, but it is essentially a deep degree of humans have experiences in the cosmos that have to do with supernovas and dying star matter. Extraterrestrials can also permeate the very thin veil in a way that causes and integration into our environment. And I can't concentrate because Emmy is knocking on the door over and over again. Can you check?
I will.
Okay, and I'll continue this. So when dimensions shift very quickly, there is an instantaneous involvement where humans see something that they understand a little bit, like a black hole, because that's the only thing that their limited brains can capture and that the technology can capture. They don't want to discuss what caused it. NASA knows what caused it. They will not be revealing that at any time soon because it is extraterrestrial in nature, and it is a degree of science produced by extraterrestrials that permeates our dimension in a way that the government doesn't understand yet. So is she okay?
She's fine. She's right over here, and she's promising to be quiet while we finish. She's
Okay.
just fine. All right, here's a question. Were you finished?
Mhm.
Here's a question. How can we positively discern the truth of any matter? Or any truth?
Hawking's looking at you.
A positive way to discern the truth. That was a question that rolled by earlier.
Hawking can't stop talking about physical matter. Okay. He said, no, that's I'm going to answer it the way that I want to answer it. And that would be that matter is currently existent and non-existent simultaneously. And therefore, how can truth be relevant to anything that you create from physicality? How can truth be relevant? Guy. He is very passionate. And he will insert his opinion pretty avidly. And he said that truth is incredibly relative to your perspective and your potentials and how limited or unlimited you are, and especially in third dimensional environments. Every truth is a creation from what is normally a limited mind.
Okay. All right. We're coming up on 2 hours, Pamela. So
we are?
Okay. 15 minutes will be 2 hours.
Oh, I need to go feed my kids.
Yeah.
I don't even feel hungry, but we need to feed them.
So here's somebody who wants to know what the constant ringing in their head is all about.
From the physical perspective, you have emoto. The ears produce sound that basically echoes, and sound is different. When you begin to perceive sound in a different way, in a more powerful and permeating frequency, and as sound is becoming light, especially during those times, the 3 bones in your inner ear cannot handle that. They cannot handle a different type of frequency that has quicker and quicker sound waves, because sound waves are slow and dense, and they're used to that. And biological matter cannot handle the newer frequencies that are arising. Your ears are becoming more porous in nature, those 3 bones, as the sound permeates them, because sound is very permeating and penetrating. So it's going into the very porous nature of the bones in your inner ears, and those tiny bones are expanding very quickly, and your physical body your brain doesn't know what to do with it, so it creates a phantom sound on its way to light resonance.
I like that, phantom sound, light resonance. All right. Let's see. ET disclosure. Is there anything about that from the ATeam?
Stephen said, and you are aware that your governments would hide it if it would be. And are you ready? Is the majority of the third dimensional collective ready for such a disclosure? What do you believe would occur? It would be madness and chaos. And you know what I feel about madness and chaos and where that leads.
All right. The Mandela effect again. Any new perspectives? Or I guess we haven't heard Stephen talk about the Mandela effect. We asked the ATeam before.
He said it is matter collapsing into matter. And, much like, as a supernova has that dying star matter that gets smaller and smaller. He believed for a while that black holes could become smaller and smaller. basically with the Mandela effect, you are, as that becomes smaller, it's me. I mean,
Go on mute again.
no, it's not.
No, yeah, there's no sound.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the microphone says it's on.
It is.
You are 2 hours into this, though. I mean, it's 10 minutes from being a 2-hour show.
It says
already.
we're good. All the guides are saying we've been good for like 30 seconds.
Sound is back.
That's why I'm not unplugging it again, because they're saying.
Yeah, so all of the A-team, before any of you could type the words, all of the A-team were like, it's back, it's fine, just keep going now.
Keep talking.
Yeah, and before any of you could say anything, it was kind of amazing. All right, will string theory be proven in my lifetime, said somebody.
Proven and disproven, and then proven again in a very different way, Stephen Hawking.
All right, type a question, you YouTubers. or we just might descend into barroom jokes from the science guys on the A-team.
Oh, they missed the Mandela info. Basically, to cut the short info on the Mandela info, he said when it's similar to when two black holes meet and merge, and when that happens, a time loop is created, and you are experiencing a void of time. And in that moment, any perception can occur simultaneously, which leads to what Dolores talks a lot about. She's talking about, she finishes sentence, she said, which leads to parallel existence, parallel realities.
Okay.
And in parallel realities, you might think that things look the same, but you are not created the same. You do not create individuality in your personalities to be the same. Therefore, you're experiencing what you want to believe is the same reality, but you are unique souls with unique experiences. So some of you see the same things and some of you don't, and you're expecting everything to be the same still. You're still looking for that consistency.
All right.
Still trying to connect some dots.
Here's a question about auras and aura transformation and crystal auras. Any information about auras out there?
Hawking says, what do you want to know more about energy and light that you currently could not access through your computers? I think he just told you to use Google.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's funny. All right. I kind of like this one, though. What does Stephen Hawking think of Stephen Greer's work?
He said, he did like this. He said, I give him all of the credibility in the world for his courage and his bravery and extending this information. But the government is not prepared to handle such knowledge that they already know exists, and they have already discovered the majority of what he is sharing, and they don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Here's another UFO question. What was the cigar? Oh, wow, it goes by so fast. What was the cigar-shaped ship that went by in, I think it was 2017. I think that Stephen, there it is. Passed by Earth in 2017. The reports say that it baffled Stephen. What is his perspective now? Does he want to let us know what that was?
I did not want to believe that anything would be extraneous from my mind. And that belief served me at that time. And obviously, if we could create life elsewhere, it would make sense that there would be life elsewhere. And from that perspective, I did not want to go forward into the belief that there could be a life elsewhere. It would disprove the majority of my theories. And I wasn't ready for that. Society wasn't ready for that. And of course, it baffled me at the time.
Can you tell us what it was or is? Or does he know from where he is now?
He said it was obviously an extraterrestrial ship that penetrated the barrier.
Mm-hmm. All right. Here's the question about not being able to sleep.
You're going to ask me?
Yeah. I knew you would get a giggle out of that.
What is the question?
Is it an ascension symptom or
it can be?
What knowledge?
Dolores says it can be, but it can also be that in higher dimensional bodies, a person no longer needs as much sleep, and in really higher dimensional bodies, they will no longer need it at all. And you will experience lack of sleep to prepare you for the times when you don't need sleep and when you need very little food, when you are living off of the pranic life that's Emoto. Water will always be necessary, but food at some point, according to Emoto, will no longer be necessary within the course of the next 10,000 years of the human evolution.
All right. Any thoughts or information on CERN?
No.
Okay, then.
I mean, I'm listening, and they're all finding it to be no longer relevant, especially to the, Dolores says, especially to the ascension experience. It is no longer relevant and hasn't recently been utilized, she says. Tesla says it's just not, these programs are outdated. They're not even looking for the same information anymore. So why would they continue to use CERN? It's way outdated.
All right. Okay. I like this question. How do we infuse water with grace?
It's interesting, being that we've been working on our quantum alchemy process. And that is a part of the process. And it was shared from Masaru Emoto. And he specifically said that when you choose a positive frequency, you assign a color to that frequency, breathe it in through your crown chakra or through your heart. Either way, you can breathe it into your crown and then down to your heart. And then out one of your arms, you imagine that color through your breath goes down into your arm, into your fingers, and then you place your fingers over a glass. And then from that moment, you think of your happiest, most joyful, most celebratory, or most loving moment that you've ever had. You think of like whatever the first thing that comes, but it cannot be something that's going to make you sad or like, cannot be someone you recently lost either. That's something that they mentioned. But you basically focus on that memory and you focus on your breath and the color of that emotion. Whatever emotion accompanies that memory, you will assign color to it, and you will breathe it in, and then exhale it down into your hand, and then imagine that color is going into the water, and then you drink it very slowly. So I do this a lot, and then I put my water in the sun, and then I pour it into my plants, which is why Grace over there, my biggest plant, thrives so well. You guys want to see Grace? She's super cool. There's Grace. Yeah, she is cute, isn't she?
All right. Here's a question about the cause of cancer. What's the cause of cancer?
Belief systems.
Hmm.
Simple answer.
Yeah.
Negative belief systems.
Mhm.
Primarily the belief system of powerless, that you are
Mhm.
powerless, that you are helpless.
Mhm.
Also, depending upon the types of cancers that exist, it can be a little different, but there are always negative beliefs like severe resentment, grief. Cancer overall is represented by the when a belief system is basically eating away at you, when you can't let something go. Lack of forgiveness is the major thing. You can't forgive yourself or someone else, or you cannot let go of a negative emotion. You're holding something in and it's literally eating away at your cells, whatever that emotion is, and it can cause a lot.
Mm-hmm. Jumping back one question, can you infuse your water with grace and give it to someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And Emotus says their body will process it exactly the way their cells need. So it won't be like you're infusing your water and your energy into their body. Like their body will transmute that exactly how it's needed.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another water question, probably for Emoto as well. Mm-hmm. What do you think of distilled water? Lots of people are talking about drinking only distilled water. Other people say spring water.
Dolores says beliefs, more beliefs, and more beliefs.
There you go.
We're going to only take one more question, guys, because I really do need to go drink some water and eat some food.
The natives are restless. We have a house full of kids on spring break here, and they need to have their dinner.
They do. Okay.
All right. Let's see. Okay. The last one is about RH factor, and I'm interested in this because I actually am O negative.
I'm O positive. That's funny.
Well, here we make a great pair then. If we were born with RH factor, is there anything the ATeam wants to talk about, the meaning of the RH factor and the different blood types on the planet?
Dolores said meaning, and more meaning.
Yeah, there you go.
Tesla said that there has been a direct connection that he purposely studied because he was taught by Venusian beings about RH factor, particularly negative RH factor, coming from certain Venusian and Arcturian races, and positive RH factors coming from more heart chakra, a little bit more sentient, more like particularly the way that he described it to me was Pleiadians, Lyrans, that's me, Lyran felines, and more of the whole Elohim functional races. From that level of Christ consciousness, they are positive. They are the positive RH, and the negatives have to do with the more non-sentient, more crown, more cerebral, Arcturians and Alpha Centaurians and Talcetians and all those levels from those particular galaxies.
Okay.
So it's just about where you're from. It's no meaning. That's why Dolores said meanings, and more meanings, because it just is it's just the spiritual genetics that you bring into your physical genetics. So it's your extraterrestrial, your galactic lineage genetics. That's all it is about. There's no meaning other than that.
Just a little marker.
Except for what humans like to create in their beautiful creativity, Dolores says.
Well, we've been at this for 2 hours. Pamela, it's been amazing. I know that the ATeam really kind of threw a wrench into our plans this weekend, but it's been fun. I hope you all out there have enjoyed it as much as I have.
Oh, we can get back to all that tomorrow.
Yes, we can.
We can get back to our studies tomorrow. So, all right, guys, I love you all. And you can listen to this as much as you want. I'm not even sure we're going to edit it. Maybe we'll edit out our coughing, but other than that.
That would take too long, probably.
Yeah, it probably would. But what's going on next? Who are we channeling next?
The Tree Collective.
Someone else's brain. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tree Collective coming up. And along with the ancients, for those of you who are interested in talking to some of the most ancient beings that have ever existed, between the two of them, over on my creator site on patreon.com/Pamela Aaralyn, you will be able to find that here at the end of the month. So that's coming up really, really soon. And we also have White Buffalo Medicine Catwoman. So as you can see, I don't always do scientific channelings. It's not always that. So you can get a lot more channelings. And ATeam, I don't know. They sometimes have been talking a lot and sometimes not. But lately it's been a lot.
And so we
have no idea when we'll hear from them again.
It's been fun. Yes, they've been very active. And those of you out there who are interested in quantum healing or beyond quantum healing, come out to my website, quantumhealingpractitioners.com. Join us, learn with us. If you're a service to others practitioner, you might like our community. We'd love to have you.
For sure. You can access Candace's Beyond Quantum Healing practice and our quantum alchemy process as well, which will be available. Hopefully, we're hoping in spring. We really are. We have our sights set on spring. We don't know.
We're working on it.
We don't know if that's going to happen, but that's the goal right now. And Beyond Quantum Healing is currently available.
BQH, the beta class anyway.
Beta is currently available.
Well, it's it's in creation mode. I couldn't wait, so I just started, but the polished package will be showing up sometime later this year. But right now, if you want to be in on it on the fly, you can come join us right now.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.